Everything changed in a matter of seconds. I mean, literally overnight. Late Tuesday night, when the latest executive poll results leaked from the league offices through encrypted emails and burner phones, an absolute shockwave tore through the entire NFL quarterback hierarchy. The old guard was put on notice immediately. And the metrics that we all thought we understood so perfectly for evaluating greatness, well, they were completely rewritten in an instant. The immediate reaction from veteran front offices across the league was just sheer disbelief. So welcome to NFL Nexus. I'm your host, and today we are diving deep into an explainer that is literally sending shockwaves through the league as we speak. Before we uncover the dramatic shift that is general managers whispering behind closed doors right now, make sure you hit that subscribe button, like this explainer, and comment down below on what you thought. And hey, if you want to truly support the channel and dive even deeper into the microscopic film room details with us, consider becoming a channel member. Today, we are breaking down the seismic Caleb Williams ranking that has completely fractured the traditional scouting consensus. The very foundation of the league is shifting beneath our feet, and Chicago is right at the epicenter.
So what actually makes a top 10 NFL quarterback? Take a moment and really, truly think about that. Because the very definition of a franchise savior is changing right in front of our eyes. For decades, the old math was simple. It was highly structured, very rigid. You evaluated a quarterback based on expected points added, their QBR, completion percentages from a perfectly clean, pristine pocket, hitting the primary read exactly on time, and of course, most importantly, playoff victories. But the league is evolving at a terrifying speed right now. Front offices are no longer just grading what a player has done within the strict confines of a perfectly executed system. No, the new math is all about broken play metrics. They're literally grading the sleepless nights that a player causes for opposing defensive coordinators on a random Tuesday in October. They are grading that unteachable, raw, kinetic creation capacity that can basically break a perfectly called defensive scheme right in half. And that evolution brings us to the absolute most controversial ranking of the entire 2026 offseason.
Number 10. It's just a single digit, right? But in the context of this ESPN poll voted on by the absolute most influential minds in the sport, it carries the weight of an entire franchise. Caleb Williams, the Chicago Bears star quarterback, was awarded the 10th overall spot in the league's ultimate hierarchy. Just let that sink in for a second. Who exactly makes up this voting block? We're not talking about talking heads on TV. These are veteran defensive coordinators who have spent 20 years meticulously building schemes, perfecting cover four match principles, who are now just throwing their hands up and admitting they are completely terrified of a young, undeniably flawed quarterback coming off a very turbulent 2025 campaign. The smartest, most cynical men in the business, whose actual mortgages and legacies depend on accurately evaluating talent, have placed Williams inside the most exclusive club in professional sports. The weight of this single digit is just immense because it fundamentally alters the entire balance of power in the NFC.
To truly understand the gravity of this, we have to look at exactly who he stepped over to get here. Williams isn't just ranked 10th. He's ranked ahead of established veterans, recent champions, and bitter division rivals. The voters took this electrifying yet imperfect quarterback and placed him ahead of his division nemesis, Green Bay's Jordan Love. Let's really look at the microscopic details here for a second. Love operates within a highly structured, rhythm-based Matt LaFleur offense. It's a system built on precise mechanical timing. Yet Love, who was ranked 72nd by the players, was left off this executive top 10 list entirely. Gone. But the ripple effect goes so much further than that. Williams also eclipsed Seattle's Sam Darnold, a quarterback who literally just hoisted the Lombardi Trophy by executing a veteran, risk-averse game management blueprint perfectly. Think about the sheer audacity of that decision by the voters. The evaluators looked at the proven safety of a reigning champion, discarded it, and chose the raw, unbridled, and frankly terrifying ceiling of Caleb Williams instead.
Okay, let's dive into this next part because this is where the story gets incredibly cinematic. The number 10 spot wasn't some unanimous coronation where everyone just agreed. It was a brutal, drawn-out war in what we can only call the tiebreaker room. According to the ESPN release, the initial voting resulted in an absolute dead heat. Picture that room for a minute. The glow of film monitors in a darkened office in Indianapolis, tense phone calls echoing down the hallway. You have rival executives absolutely refusing to back down, pulling up the tape to argue completely different visions of what playing the position even means. On one monitor, they are watching Caleb Williams duck a free rusher on a zero blitz and create an impossible sidearm throw on the run. On the other monitor, they are watching Sam Darnold execute a perfectly clean, on-time dagger concept during a high-stakes 2-minute drill. This wasn't just a simple vote to break a tie. It was a philosophical war for the very soul of the modern quarterback position.
The reality of this four-way logjam illustrates exactly the diverse talent involved in that philosophical battle. You have four completely distinct archetypes fighting for one single spot. There is Sam Darnold in Seattle, the ultimate system executor who essentially plays point guard and lets the offensive scheme do all the heavy lifting. There is Jordan Love in Green Bay, the rhythm processor who wins the rep before the snap with elite diagnostic skills. Then you have Jaden Daniels in Washington, whose archetype relies on sheer linear explosion and pristine, towering, deep ball touch down the boundary. And finally, you have Caleb Williams representing Chicago, completely defined by lateral escapability, 360-degree field vision, and this insane multi-arm angle torque. How do you possibly separate this system champion from the raw prodigy? The competition to break this tie was so microscopic, with scouts looking for the tiniest advantages that tip the scales in a league where the margin of error is basically zero. And ultimately, the tiebreaker came down to one terrifying reality for defenses. He's the hardest of the four for teams to prepare for and defend. Just let that exact rationale from a voting executive hang in the air for a second. This right here is the microscopic detail that tipped the scales. When a defensive coordinator builds a game plan, they rely entirely on geometric rules. In a standard cover 3 or quarters look, defensive backs can only mathematically hold their leverage and coverage for about 3.5 seconds. It's just human geometry. Sam Darnold and Jordan Love play by the rules. The ball comes out before the geometry breaks. But Caleb Williams extends the play to 5, 6, sometimes even 7 seconds. He completely shatters the geometric limits of zone coverage altogether. For an executive to definitively state that Williams is the hardest to prepare for means he removes predictability from the game. He weaponizes chaos. And in today's NFL, that ability to force a defense to cover for an impossible amount of time is the ultimate trump card. Listen to exactly how a voting general manager broke down that chaos. Quote, "He's the most dynamic of the group. He's got the arm talent and overall athleticism suited for today's game." Now, this isn't just about throwing the ball far. When evaluators talk about arm talent in the film room, they are talking about advanced biomechanics. It is the ability to generate 60-mile-per-hour velocity when your shoulders are completely unsquared to the target. It's using elite core strength and hip torque to deliver an absolute strike while fading backward off your back foot with a 300-pound edge rusher right in your face. The GM is explicitly telling us that Williams possesses the exact genetic and mechanical makeup required to survive. The traditional pocket passing statue is dead. Done. The modern game demands a player who can manipulate arm angles on the fly, and Williams is built perfectly for that incredibly hostile environment. And that mechanical realization leads us directly to the Mahomes standard. Now, for the better part of a half-decade, comparing a young prospect to Patrick Mahomes was considered an absolute taboo in scouting circles. It was a surefire way to get laughed right out of a draft room. I mean, Mahomes is the ghost that haunts every single general manager who passed on him. He is the ultimate terrifying benchmark. So the fact that active NFL shot callers are now actually willing to put their names on this comparison shows just how unprecedented this evaluation really is. The pressure becomes completely suffocating the moment that name enters the chat, but it reveals the pure awe with which they view Williams' absolute ceiling. They aren't comparing him to system managers. They are holding his tape up against the most transcendent player of this generation, finding enough similarities in that off-platform magic to justify betting their entire professional reputations on him. And here is where the scales completely tip into totally uncharted territory. An actual NFL coach, on the record, explicitly used that Patrick Mahomes comparison to justify this top 10 ranking. Dropping that name in a scouting evaluation is literally the nuclear option. It instantly ends any argument about traditional stats and hardware. By making this comparison, the coach is highlighting a massive, fundamental shift in risk profile across the league. Drafting a safe player with a high floor might get your team to 9-8 and a quick, polite exit in the wildcard round. But drafting a player with Mahomes' tier ceiling, that gets you a decade-long dynasty. The coach is basically telling the rest of the league that they do not care if Williams is flawed right now. They are completely willing to gamble on that infinite ceiling because you aren't drafting the player Williams is today. You are terrified of the unstoppable player he is about to become tomorrow. So the absolutely crucial point here is understanding why this was even a debate in the first place. We have to look at the reality neutrally for a second. On one side of the scale, you have that generational arm talent we just talked about. On the other side, you have the glaring 2025 accuracy issues. This is the massive vulnerability in his armor right now. Let's look at the microscopic details of those missed layups from last season. We are talking about critical 3rd and 4th situations where the flat route is completely wide open, but his base artificially narrows, he gets lazy with his footwork, throws off his back foot totally unnecessarily, and the ball sails right into the dirt, forcing a punt. For the purist in the scouting community, the guys who value perfect timing and hitting the receiver perfectly in stride, these mechanical failures were a total deal breaker.
You simply cannot survive long-term in this league if you cannot reliably execute the routine, mundane plays, regardless of how spectacular your highlight reel is. But look, Chicago's front office isn't blind to this reality. They know exactly what is holding their young star back. This offseason, the singular focus inside that building has been fiercely attacking those mechanical accuracy issues. Head coach Ben Johnson is locked in the lab with Williams right now. Just look at Johnson's track record. He is the man who miraculously revived Jared Goff's career by meticulously scheming open receivers and fixing fundamental footwork. Now he's applying that brilliant offensive mind directly to Williams. They are diving deep into the microscopic mechanics. They are actively widening his throwing base, they are quieting his chaotic lower half, and they are tying his eyes directly to his footwork so his internal processor perfectly matches his external mechanics. If Johnson can map a consistent, reliable framework onto that dynamic arm, fixing those 3rd and 4 misfires, the terrifying potential the executives see will become an everyday reality. They are literally rewiring him to unlock his final level.
And clearly, a very powerful faction inside the league believes that unlocking is absolutely inevitable. Because while the consensus landed him at 10, the number 6 is what should truly send a shiver down the spine of the rest of the NFC. Some incredibly bold voters didn't just barely edge him into the elite club, they vaulted him all the way to number 6 in the entire league. Just think about the audacity of this organizational coup. The executives sitting in those suites are essentially doing the math and saying they would instantly trade 260 established starting NFL quarterbacks for Caleb Williams today, right now. They looked at the landscape of MVPs, grizzled veterans, and Super Bowl champions and aggressively voted that his potential eclipses almost all of them. It shows a deep-seated belief within the NFL's inner circle that the mechanical leap has already occurred behind closed doors, and the rest of us just haven't seen it translated onto the grass yet. Which brings us to the ultimate, historic impact of this entire evaluation. The contrast on the board is just jarring. You've got potential on one side and actual hardware on the other. Caleb Williams is ranked higher than Sam Darnold, a man who literally just hoisted the Lombardi Trophy. The league has officially stated, on the record, that they are more terrified of the intangible electric current of what Caleb Williams could do than the heavy, tangible reality of what Sam Darnold actually did to win a ring. This is a monumental paradigm shift for the NFL. Hardware is no longer the ultimate shield against criticism. The NFL is officially becoming a league of what-ifs rather than what was. Executives are openly declaring that the absolute ceiling matters more than the established floor, and they would much rather face a champion who plays within a system than face a prodigy who threatens to break the entire system on every single snap.
So, this isn't over yet. The league is officially on notice. The executives have placed their bets, the coaches have drawn their lines in the sand, and the war in the tiebreaker room has been decided for now. But the brutal, beautiful reality of this game is that the narrative is always settled on the grass, never in a boardroom. Will the microscopic mechanical work with Ben Johnson actually fix the accuracy? Will the incredibly heavy Mahomes comparisons prove prophetic? Or will the crushing weight of those unprecedented expectations break him? As we march toward the 2026 kickoff, the pressure on Chicago is immense. So what do you think? Did the executives get it right? Or is placing hypothetical potential over a tangible Super Bowl ring a catastrophic mistake? Let me know down in the comments. Thank you so much for joining me on NFL Nexus for this explainer. Keep your eyes on the film, and we will see you next time.